All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Gridiron glory that is the Manalytics podcast. All right, so today we're stepping into the huddle and we're going to dissect, the latest fantasy football news that's shaping the upcoming season. So get ready to strategize. I would say analyze, but we don't really do too much analytics here. But we'll give you the common sense approach to dominate your draft like a true MVP. So it's a jam-packed show. Let me break it down for you what we're going to talk about today. So we got a huge Jonathan Taylor update. So we'll kick off the show with the latest buzz on Jonathan Taylor. Him riding the pup list. Colts keeping him in-house, which somebody called last week on our podcast. So we're diving deep into where should you draft Jonathan Taylor now on your radar? Is he a risky gamble or a steal waiting to happen? We're going to do a Dynasty Draft Mock Analysis. So what we're going to do is take a look at a mock Dynasty Draft that we recently did, talk about some of the picks that we love, picks that we hate, some that left us scratching our heads, and even a couple jaw-dropping surprises that could change your Dynasty League landscape forever. And then as we know, the clock is ticking, and it's the biggest fantasy draft weekend is here. But fear not, we've got your back. We're going to unearth the truth behind the hype as we get into our first ever lock it or block it segment. So we're going to break down a couple players for you that hey, we're either going to lock them in, take them on your roster if they're there, or hey, throw those X's up, block them out. You don't want them on your squad. And as a special treat, we're going to give you the opportunity to learn from the Gridiron gurus you see here. We both recently had some fantasy drafts that we got some good takeaways from. Learn from our mistakes. We'll walk through those drafts, let you know what we did wrong, what we would do differently if we got the opportunity to do it again, so that you don't have to live those mistakes in your next draft. So get ready, level up your fantasy strategy, stay ahead of the game, dominate your leagues like a champ. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because Manalytics is here to lead your team to victory. So with that, Jeff, let's dive into Jonathan Taylor update. Break it down for us.
Yeah, man. So as somebody said last week, Jonathan Taylor is staying with the Colts, which I did not expect. I did not see coming at all. Apparently the value that the Colts were getting, and their trade values anyway, was not what they were hoping for, which is kind of expected. Everybody knows he's disgruntled and he wants to be traded, so they were going to lowball them as much as possible, I'm sure. But now that there's been no trade, he's on the pup list past the designated time. So now he's going to be out for at least 4 weeks, which is going to affect a lot of draft strategies right off the bat, especially considering me personally. I don't even think 4 weeks is going to be the time frame, personally. If they don't trade him, I know you said you were against this. I know Le'Veon Bell's proven this before. That's a bad thing to do, but I really – like, you see those other running backs that have been disgruntled and they've still signed their contracts. Saquon, Eckler, Josh Jacobs recently. I don't see Taylor doing it. I don't see him playing through it. I think he's going to really stand on the moral high ground at this point, and he might sit out a majority of the season. I could really see it happen. Yeah.
You think so?
I do. It's crazy to me. I like you said, I don't agree with it. It's not a great idea, especially being a running back, even though he's not going to be taking all those hits this year. So that's one extra year that he's going to add to his running back shelf life. But I just think what's gone on between him and Irsay, with the words being said, he still said he's disgruntled even after this news of them not trading him. I say stay away from him. We could start blocking him early. Stay away from Jonathan Taylor as much as possible, in my opinion. If you're going to take a flyer on him, I mean, he's worth, to me, maybe a 4th or 5th rounder if you really think he's going to play this season. If you're big on it, I'm telling you, maybe a 4th or 5th rounder.
How do you go from he's not playing to I'd take him in the 4th round?
I'm saying if you think he's going to play, if you believe I'm not drafting him even in the 4th or 5th round. I'm saying if you believe that I'm wrong, which I'm not usually, if you believe I'm wrong and you think he's going to play for the Colts this season, you think they'll mend things up, you're still out 4 seasons right off the bat, okay? Or 4 weeks right off the bat. So that's already starting your season off wrong. And then he's got to get into the swing of things on top of it. I don't see him having the value that I thought he would have with another team. So 4th rounder, if you think he's going to play, me personally, I don't think he's going to do it unless they trade him.
So
I let him.
so you're in a redraft league.
Yep.
What are you doing with Jonathan Taylor?
Not touching him.
Leaving him off. So 13th round, he's still on the board.
No. I mean, I don't see him lasting that long, but yeah, if he makes it to the 8th or 9th round and I'm drafting bench spots, then yeah, I'll take a flyer on him and bench spots, but not starter, not flex, maybe not even the first bench spot. I might still fill it with a receiver or some sort, but yeah, I mean, I could take him 8th, 9th round if I really am like, wow, he's still there. You know, what the hell? It's better, I'll roll the dice and take a shot at it. But I'm not taking him as a it's too risky for me personally. Let alone who knows if he's going to put up those numbers. That was one season that he did it. It's not like he's done this for 4 or 5 seasons or anything. So I don't know. What do you think about Taylor? Where are you taking him?
Yeah. So. So where I was going last week is that, I did not think the Colts were serious about trading him. And, I thought that they were putting that up there for an artificial deadline, just to kind of show him that, hey, you're not as valuable as you think you are. And I got confirmation of that because here's what I heard so they were in talks with the Dolphins, right? They were asking the Dolphins for Jalen Waddle and a 1st-round pick. Like, that's not a serious offer. Like,
No.
Nobody's making that trade. So they had zero intentions of trading Jonathan Taylor. I am still a little surprised that they put him on the PUP list. I don't think he's still rehabbing from his ankle injury. He said he's not. They came out with the story about his back, which he said, what back injuries. So, to your point, I mean, maybe he doesn't, I was leaning more of the mindset that like, hey, I think he's just going to play, wind up playing this out for the Colts because 1, it's what's best for Anthony Richardson, and 2, it's what's best for Jonathan Taylor from a monetary standpoint and from, hey, let me rehab my value so maybe next offseason will be different for me. But now that they put him on the PUP list, I don't. Maybe they just don't want to pay him anything, or they don't want to. Maybe they don't want him to pay. I don't know. So that was a surprising move for me. So I'm with you. If he's on the board, maybe around the 10th round, 9th round, he's worth a flyer because he still could get traded even though he's on the PUP list. There's could be something that comes out. I've heard rumors that the Colts are looking at they're monitoring Kareem Hunt's situation. So that could be an opportunity to bump up Kareem Hunt's ADP, but it also could be an opportunity that if they sign Kareem Hunt or another veteran back, that maybe that opens up the real trade talks for for Jonathan Taylor. So yeah, in that 8 to 10 round range, if he's there, take the flyer. But yeah, I'm not banking on him playing and saving my fantasy season. If I'm a 0 running back drafter and he's there in the 4th or 5th round, look elsewhere. Get somebody that can return that value at this point. Rashad White is a better option. Hell, you got backups and rookies like Zach Charbonnet that are better options right now. So
yeah,
guys that
it's so bad
field.
Rashad White's out doing Jonathan Taylor at this point. That just sounds that's another dimension at this point. It's just so weird, but yeah, it's unfortunate. But especially because that's the biggest key to it is that they kept him on the PUP list because now that's going to piss him off even more. Like if he truly is telling the truth and he's not injured and they're putting him on that list, now all of a sudden they're messing with his money, they're messing with his stats. Like that's a big thing. So I could really see this being a game of chicken between the two of them. And yeah, I don't know who's going to blink first, but either way, it's going to linger more than week 4. So yeah, I agree. I'm shocked we agree, but yeah, 8th to 10th round. If you want to take a flyer on him, not a bad pickup. So
yeah, I think that's all you can do. Like you can't, I feel, we didn't talk this in the pre-show, but it brings up an interesting topic. I don't know if you have an answer ready or not, but it just popped into my head. There's a lot of people that probably took him 2nd round, maybe even first round thing, he would sign with the team. So do you have anybody, right now on the waiver wire, or waivers haven't started yet, on the free agency that you're like, yo, if you drafted Jonathan Taylor, go check this guy out, see if he's available in your league. Only person that comes to my mind is who I just mentioned, and that's why he comes to my mind. Is if Kareem Hunt's still out there, take a flyer on him for insurance. But anybody that comes to your mind?
Kareem Hunt's not bad. So the report is there's 4 teams that are interested in Hunt and trying to sign him. So I believe he will be on a team by this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. So that's not a bad pickup. I don't think he'll be starting, but he definitely could be in a backup role where he's still getting quality looks like how he was in Cleveland. That's not terrible. So I know we mentioned this guy last episode, but Rashad Penny, I'm starting to notice isn't getting drafted, which kind of blows my mind a little bit. He didn't get drafted in the league that I'm in currently, which kind of threw me off. Another league that I was in, Zeke didn't get drafted. That's definitely not a bad pickup to have, especially if you're, touchdown oriented. But yeah, those are probably 3 of the main ones I would think right now, waiver wire wise, that it would come to mind.
Yeah, I like that. Those are some good options. Like I said, I know we didn't talk that, but that's a good. You have Zeke's out there. I mean, at this point, like if you drafted Jonathan Taylor first or second round, like you're grasping for straws. So I like Hunt, Zeke, and who's the other one you mentioned? Sorry.
Kareem Hunt, Zeke, and Rashad Penny, your boy.
Rashad Penny. Yeah. If you can get Rashad Penny out there,
Penny's one, or Gainwell too. I mean, if you really believe the hype in Gainwell, that's not a bad pickup. Nobody's really talking about him in our draft, so Gainwell's not a bad pickup either. But I'd still go with Penny right now.
Yeah, Keandre Miller's not a bad pick out of in New Orleans, since Kamara's missing some time. Jamal Williams is probably going to be, the lead back there, but, Keandre Miller out of New Orleans, if he's on the waiver wire, again, if you drafted Taylor, you're kind of just grasping for straws, and hopefully your bench is strong. But if not, you need somebody to plug in. I wouldn't bet the farm on Keandre Miller week 1, but, maybe something shakes out in those first 2 or 3 weeks.
No, you're not. You're definitely not looking for someone to start right away. You have your bench for a reason. You're just upgrading a next man up kind of thing. But you're kind of taking at that point, if you're able to put Taylor on the IR spot, I mean that's more or less just trying to find someone to kind of plug and play throughout the season. Maybe they erupt a little bit. Maybe they get some good starts here and there. Maybe an injury happens. You handcuff somebody that nobody handcuffed. That's my big thing with Zeke, is that I hate to keep saying it, but if Stevenson, who looked good by the way the other night, but if Stevenson goes down for some crazy reason, Zeke's next up. They traded Pierre Strong this weekend, which was their third back. They don't really have a crowded backfield at this point. They're pretty much all in on Stevenson and Zeke. So I'm high on Zeke. I think he's a good pickup if he's on that free agent wire.
Yep, I'd agree. Good call. Cool. So with this draft, we're not going to go, same thing, we're not going to go through, every single round. We're just going to kind of highlight, some picks that we liked, some picks that we didn't like, and then, really just kind of some picks that surprised us. The first thing that jumped out to me was in the first round. So Jeff, I don't know if there was something in the first round also that you wanted to talk about. You can go right ahead. Or if you had something there.
Yeah, no. First round, absolutely atrocious in that 9th slot. I couldn't believe it. I was so mad. Jalen Hurts, what is wrong with you people? When are you going to? Because
he should have been earlier.
Oh my God! When are you people going to find out that Jalen Hurts is a complete fraud? I'm done with it. He's a fraud. He was a fraud in the national championship at Alabama. He was a fraud at Oklahoma where we got destroyed, and he's a fraud now. They put out the greatest offense that could possibly be put out for a quarterback that's a fraud. And he's just going to get another 2 to 3 years of it, and then he's going to fall off. This is a dynasty draft, people. This isn't a redraft. You can't use him this year because he's got A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, the best offensive line in football. Is there a weakness that I'm going to find out here eventually? They just got Penny and DeAndre Swift. They just traded for Albert O from Denver. There's no weakness in this offense. He's going to have it for 2 more years and then be done. So if you want a quarterback for 2 years, by all means, go ahead and draft Jalen Hurts. You're going to have a great quarterback for 2 years. After that, get ready to draft whoever's coming out in that rookie draft because it's going to be a complete waste of a pick. Sorry.
So why is Jalen Hurts a fraud? Like he's 65% completion percentage in college, and that was in Alabama where he's going against SEC defenses who you all love SEC defenses down
Mac
there.
Jones.
What he's Mac Jones Pro Bowl is rookie year. Mac Jones, that's your boy Macaroni Jones.
Pro Bowl, first off, wait a minute. The Pro Bowl's a joke. Let's be honest, okay? Vince Young made a Pro Bowl because the first 8 quarterbacks in that conference weren't able to make it. So I don't want to hear about the Pro Bowl. Continue.
Yeah, I mean he's gotten better every year in the NFL. From a completion percentage standpoint, I bring that up a lot because that's like the number one thing that I look at. And not only can he throw it, but the dude can run it too. Like he's a dual threat quarterback that looks to pass first and then runs when nothing else is available. So it's shocking to hear he's a fraud. Now, because I would have questioned taking Mahomes over him. Now, I don't think that maybe Jalen Hurts should have been the first quarterback drafted, but just given that Mahomes is a little bit older, he's got a few seasons under his belt. You don't know if Andy Reid's going to retire. How much does Andy Reid play into that offense? I don't know. But a fraud that's a bit strong. That's a bit strong for me.
Yeah, it is, and I'm proud of it. Strong takes from Biggie. Okay, No, I'm sorry, Jalen Hurts, fraud. Mark it. 2 years from now, when we're a successful podcast, I want you to replay this episode and let everybody know Jalen Hurts is a fraud. Period.
And 2 years from now, I'm going to have a new co-host because of that take, and I won't be able to support you and your irrational decision making.
I'm not saying he's terrible. I guess I kind of am saying he's terrible. He's just in a good situation. That's all he is. He didn't start off they weren't even sure if he was going to be the guy by season 2. Season 3 is when they really needed to figure it out. Like he started to come along at the end of season 2. So, and now they're giving him all these weapons, and all of a sudden you guys are surprised he's doing well. Like he's got great weapons. I don't see how anybody, like I told you before, Gardner Minshew can be successful in this offense, and that's my personal, honest opinion. And I think eventually, when those players start to decline, Devontae Smith maybe goes to a different team, AJ Brown starts to eventually decline in 2 to 3 years, maybe, or goes to another team, or that offensive line start to dismember. You're gonna see it. I'm telling you, he's not as good as people advertise.
I disagree. I think. I agree with the weapons piece, and Gardner Minshew, when he came in, he played a couple games. He put up some numbers. So I hear you on that. I just think Jalen Hurts is special. Maybe it's my proximity to Philly, and because I got to watch all their games last year. And some of the things that he does is just incredible. So call it a bias, but.
Yeah, that's fine. The only person I really thought ever called him special was his mother, but that's cool. If you want to start doing that, that's great. Yeah.
Let's see. I mean, my take on the first round wasn't going to be that hot and that intense. I was just going to suggest, if I'm in a dynasty league, I would have swapped. I definitely would have swapped Garrett Wilson and CeeDee Lamb. That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, CeeDee Lamb, like I keep hearing about how he's going to have great year after great year, and he just doesn't. He came on strong at the end of last year. Don't get me wrong, but he tends to get a case of the dropsies. Dallas's offense, even this year. Yeah, I do like Brandon Cooks. But they're going to be able to key in on CeeDee Lamb. They're going to be able to stop him, and they just traded for Trey Lance. Like you don't do that for no reason. Like they don't believe in Dak, which I agree with, by the way. Like I never thought that Dak was the guy. I thought they should have traded him before they signed him to that contract. Like you don't know who CeeDee Lamb's quarterback's going to be. I think Garrett. So even if you're looking at it on just a 1 year take, I think Garrett Wilson's going to have a better year than CeeDee Lamb this year. So I really don't understand that move. And but I was going to say I would have taken Garrett Wilson over McCaffrey also. I think, if you can get a young ascending receiver in these dynasty drafts, that's huge. You know, Bijan Robinson went number 2 overall, which a redraft league, we've talked a lot about this. I'm not taking him there, but in dynasty league, love that pick. It'll eventually play out, but I would have went Garrett Wilson over McCaffrey and CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, you could see it in the first 4 picks. Like, receivers are hot right off the bat. Jefferson, Chase, Brown. Like, yeah, I agree with you. I think Garrett Wilson, now he's special. He's a player that's definitely going to be legit. Even Aaron Rodgers said so, which was just fantastic. It's a good sign off. But no, Wilson, I loved him. I drafted him last year in a dynasty draft, and I'm keeping him this year, which is easy pick. But he's going to be something as long as they produce quarterbacks to throw to him correctly. But if you can produce with Zach Wilson, you can produce with anybody. So. Yeah, he's a good one. I like him in front of McCaffrey and Lamb. That's fine. Okay. Yeah. So what about the second round? Any glaring misses in the second round, or?
Yeah. Starting off with the first pick in the second round, Austin Eckler. I get there's a component of dynasty where you're drafting for today, but you're also drafting for tomorrow. But I think that a guy taking 3-4 spots later is going to have a better year and has a better future in Saquon Barkley. I think when it comes to Austin Eckler, a couple of things jump out to me is like, one, he's 28, right? Barkley's 26. So 2-year age gap. And I get, again, we got to look at the present and we got to look at the future, but we don't really know, if Austin Eckler's a product of the system, or if he can kind of thrive on his own. So you don't know where he's going to play next year. He's already said, even coming into this year, that he wants a lighter workload. And then you look at a guy that, in Saquon Barkley, that he is the Giants offense. And the Giants know that, well, maybe not the Giants GM and owner, but at least their head coach knows that Saquon Barkley is the Giants offense. So when you look at a guy that's, 2 years younger, is a more efficient and effective rusher, I'm taking Saquon all day. Like, Austin Eckler has never had a 1,000-yard season rushing, ever. Like, that's astonishing. And I know, like, the thing is like, oh, well, but he can catch a lot. He gets catches out of the backfield. Like, in Barkley's rookie year, he caught 91 passes. So it's not like the dude can't catch. The dude can catch. Oh. He's just not X to catch, which I think that changes over time. So all that aside, like, he's younger, he's a better runner. My belief is he can catch just as well. It just might not set up for it, but I think it's going to set up for it. So I would have, hands down, no qualms about it, I would have taken Saquon Barkley there instead of Austin Eckler.
Okay. I actually don't disagree. I was thinking you were going to say, like, Eckler belongs in, like, the 4th or 5th round or something, but that's fair. If Eckler goes later in the second, I'm okay with that. Like, Saquon's better. Actually, who I like a little bit better than Eckler in this draft, if I was to really go at it, is Breece Hall. If you're really going, he's basically a lot younger version of Austin Eckler. Being able to, I think he runs better than Eckler, but even catching out of the backfield, I think he's just going to be just as valuable eventually. He's coming off the injury, but still, like, he's got tons, at least 5 more years out of before he hits Eckler now. So I think Breece Hall would have been a better pick. Barkley's not a bad pick either if you wanted to go running back at that spot. Taylor, obviously, I wouldn't mess with right now.
This was done before the Taylor news break.
Yeah, even so, I mean, it would have been a toss-up, because Taylor's only going to be out for 1 year, if that. So, I mean, it's not going to be that big of a difference, but definitely Barkley and Hall. I agree.
Yeah. Like, I think it's and I think, like, now that you mentioned Breece Hall, like, I pushed back on the Jalen Hurts pick because you were saying he was terrible. But if somebody would have taken Breece Hall there instead of Hurts, I'd be okay with that. Given that it's a dynasty league.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I would have let Hurts. I would have picked Brees Hall, and then I would let Hurts fall to like the ninth round where they took David Montgomery, probably around there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where I would have taken Hurts at that point. So yeah, I completely agree. Brees Hall that pick.
I
Um,
hope you make it to the fantasy championship game, and the
and
team
Jalen
you're playing has Jalen Hurts, and he drops 50 points on you.
Oh, I hope so. He's gonna drop the ball by his side. That's what he's gonna do. Um, but anyway, all right. So yeah, second round wise, I like that. Me personally, so I had a few big names that I thought were way too high in this draft, and it happens to be in the second round. Three of them, as a matter of fact. Kelsey,
Mm.
bad. Can't take Kelsey there. Not on a dynasty. Like the guy's 33 years old. He's got maybe 1 to 2 more years. Maybe I have 1 more year for him. Even if you get 2 years out of him, not worth a second round pick when you can go get somebody like Higgins,
But
Gibbs, Najee Harris.
but
Even
I mean, they hedged it with Laporta. Laporta's got, he was the voted tight end of the year coming out of college,
I
so
like.
he's got
I
a lot
said
of
that.
potential.
I said that last episode. Laporta is going to be a sleeper. I don't disagree with that. But you can get another solid running. Their first running back's DeAndre Swift. Instead of taking Kelsey, you can go out and get Jacobs or Najee Harris or Nick Chubb, like somebody like that.
Yeah, true.
And then I would have been happy with Laporta as the main tight end at that point, and I would have been perfectly fine with that. Kelsey was way too high. That's just a wasted pick. Do not take Kelsey in the second round of a dynasty draft. And speaking of age, the end of the round and the second round, terrible. Cooper Kupp and Stefan Diggs, terrible. You do not take that. They're both turning 30. I think Diggs is 30 now, if I'm not mistaken, but they're both getting to the 30 mark. Both have offenses that uh, Cup especially. We'll talk about him later, but Diggs, I think he's going to get surpassed eventually, pretty soon. As a matter of fact, I really like Gabe Davis this season. I don't think Diggs is going to produce like you normally expect him to produce this year. I really don't. And especially considering you're taking him in the second round, when you can go out there and get somebody like T. Higgins or Olave. I'm even better. I would have been fine with maybe not this early. Maybe you go running back a little instead of those picks, and then settle for somebody like Devontae Smith or Drake London. I like those two a little bit better than Diggs and Cooper at that point. So those three picks in the second round, I think, were terrible and not thought out at all. So you're just asking for trouble. Maybe you're competing for a championship this year, even though looking at those teams, I don't. Maybe the first team has a chance with Anthony Richardson. I don't think so, but other than that, you're going to be struggling in years to come after that. So
Yeah, I think the Kelsey pick, I mean, somebody could make an argument if if your draft plays out differently. Like if you take Kelsey, if you decide to take Kelsey second overall or second round because you have a sleeper in mind, you can't go running back then receiver again. You gotta get yourself quarterback then receiver. Sorry, like you gotta get yourself a running back. You can't go Kelsey Burrow Smith and then end up with DeAndre Swift. I mean, you're 100% right. But if you go Kelsey and then in this case you could have got Najee Harris or Josh Jacobs or Nick Chubb. If you can go Brown, Kelsey, and get Chubb, I'm okay with that. If you have a sleeper tight end in mind, would I do it? No. Would I advise somebody that, hey, yo, you should do this strategy? No. But if it's what you do, and the rest of your draft falls a little bit better, I wouldn't hate it. Cup and Diggs, yeah, I'm with you on those. I guess those are produced for now years, but I mean, you already got Justin Jefferson. I do like Gibbs long term, and I get it. Like you don't know who's going to be on the board, later on. But I mean, they wound up getting Pickens in the seventh round, so I feel like that's your strategy. If you're number one overall, get Justin Jefferson for sure in a dynasty league. Then I would have went back to back running backs. In my head because I would have had somebody like a Pickens or looks like they meant Mike Williams later or just one of these younger rookie wide receivers in my head of like, okay, when I need wide receivers later on, like that's the route I'm going to go. So
Yeah.
confused
Yeah.
by the strategy, but I agree.
Especially with Cup, Higgins to me is so much better of an option than Cup at this point. Like Higgins is going to produce not only this year because it's a contract year, but next year he's going to be on a new team where he's probably going to be the number one option. So honestly, that to me, Higgins is going to have a lot of value going forward. Wherever he ends up, I don't see him being a number two for long. He's got a lot of talent to him. So
yeah, I agree. I agree. My next shock, or thing that surprised me doesn't happen until the fifth round. So I don't know if you had anything in between then.
I do. In the third round, one of the bigger ones I was going to mention too, Lamar Jackson. Come on, that's not a good pick where that is. They got him in the third round. I can't justify it considering he's mobile quarterback. He's already got some years under his belt. Yeah, he was an MVP 4 years ago, so it's like with his style of play and the weapons they refuse to consistently give him, and now he's going to be there long term. I just don't see him being a great option. There's so many better options that they could have gone. We talked about it last episode too, where we were debating who was better. Either one, I would have been Herbert or Lawrence. I would have been much happier with than going Lamar at that point, just because I think they have more long term success. Um, yeah, Herbert I would take there, and I would have been okay with it. Even Lawrence, I would have been a little shocked, but I would have been okay with it. So that's just me. I'm not a big fan of the Lamar pick personally.
Yeah, I agree. Like I know he had the MVP season, and his completion percentage, has gotten better. But like I'm still very skeptical on Lamar as a passer. There's just still too many wide open throws that he misses, and we haven't seen a run first quarterback yet age well. Like Cam looked like he was going to set the world on fire and didn't make it to age 30. So, I'm yeah, I agree. Like I'm skeptical on Lamar there. Herbert and Lawrence, 100%. I would have taken them over Lamar, and that's my
Yeah.
hell. I would have went. I probably would have went ETN over Lamar there, Stevenson over Lamar there.
Chubb was there. Yeah, there's tons of guys I would have been okay with.
Yeah, I don't love that pick, especially since
No, no,
yeah,
no. I mean, they Dak is still not drafted in that league, which kind of shocked me. Or he is drafted? No, there's a few wide receivers that weren't drafted, or quarterbacks. I mean, that weren't drafted. I know Aaron Rodgers was available, so if they needed a backup, they could always get Aaron Rodgers and drop like Bateman. I didn't understand the Bateman pick, but
yeah,
so they get a backup, but still, there's just so many better options. Like Lamar is not a dynasty. Not one I would take a dynasty flyer on. If you're gonna take him in a dynasty, I would wait till more like the fifth or sixth round, maybe build up some value there. But yeah, I would there better some options for sure.
yeah. If I'm in a dynasty league, and I don't mind the one quarterback strategy, right? But what I would have done in this scenario is I would have waited for like an Aaron Rodgers, who is only going to be a 1 to 2 year guy for you, and then I'm betting all my chips to get Caleb Williams next year, in a dynasty draft. Like that's how I would have played it. If you're going one QB, I definitely wouldn't take that QB in the third round unless it's going to be, a long term guy like a Herbert or a Lawrence. Maybe Lamar's that guy. I don't believe it. But I
No.
also I also didn't think he was going to get the contract that he got. So who knows?
No, you could have taken Rodgers, and then you could have taken C.J. Stroud's also available. You could have taken him to kind of be a bridge to see how he does this year, and then yeah, if it doesn't pan out with Rodgers and Stroud doesn't look good, then yeah, you can go Caleb next year. But there's multiple ways they could have went about it. But that was my big thing. What was yours in the fifth round?
Man, so it's a love hate relationship, right? Like I hate that this guy fell this far. but if you can get him here, I absolutely love the pick, and that's Dameon Pierce. I am all in on this dude. Like from he's a beast. I mean, he was a beast over at the University of Florida. He was on track, for over 1,000 yards last year, and then he missed, I think like 3 or 4 games. So like if you can get him in the fifth round, absolutely do it. Do I think he'll be there for you? Probably not, but like the dude's a stud. He's on a team, in Houston that Houston's gonna suck, blah 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 blah. But they sucked last year, and the dude still produced. In preseason this year, he's playing all 3 downs. He was playing mostly all 3 downs last year. He's got only Devin Singletary behind him, who's trash. So like Damian Pierce, he's young. He's only in his second year. I like him personally. I would have taken him over Tony Pollard. Um, this I can say factually because I did do it. Was I took him over Stevenson. I would. Kenneth Walker is a little iffy just because I don't know what they're doing with Zach Charbonnet, but you can make an argument there. And I'd probably take him over Najee Harris too, just because there's so much hype now coming out of who's Harris's backup. Just the second running back that they got there. There's so much hype coming. Jalen Warren.
Warren?
There's so much hype coming at him. So like if you can snag if it's the fifth round and actually this is practically like and Dameon Pierce is on the board, snag him. If it's the fourth
basically sixth round too, because it's like going into the sixth. Like what shocks me is Swift went before Pierce. Like that one was like whoa, wait a minute. Like Swift is over here finding another team, hoping to God he can pick it back up where he started. Pierce, I completely agree with you. I can't believe he fell that far. Good, that's a good one. Any other insights on this fantasy draft for the dynasty that you like or don't like?
Ones that I think might maybe surprise some people that I think are slotted perfectly. Alexander Madison, I think is slotted perfectly. Eighth round, like you just don't know what you're gonna get out of the guy. Maybe he's the guy, maybe he's not. I don't know. Again, I think he's career 4.1 yards per carry. Not to get too again, like when we say no analytics, we mean none of the fancy stuff, like the normal stuff that people need to know. We're gonna let you know, but like I'm not gonna get into like how many yards over expected carry when the weather's raining and it's windy. Like the dude's he's just okay. He's been a great handcuff, and I think that's why people like him so much. In limited spots, he's been able to produce, but I think that's a spot on slot for him. And I think it's a spot on slot for Dalvin Cook too, because you don't know what's going to happen after this year. Maybe he goes somewhere else and becomes the man. Maybe he has a great year. You could argue maybe go a couple rounds lower on Cook, and I'd be all right with that. But I think if you're looking for, this team's screwed on running back. It's a bad pick. It's a bad pick for that team, but it's a good round to get him in.
Yeah, I think Dalvin Cook there is a solid pick because you're looking at other guys that Charbonnet is more of a Swiss Army knife. Like maybe he'll be good fantasy wise, but he's up there. James Conner, that's garbage. Montgomery, even Brian Robinson, AJ Dillon, all those guys like. Cook is where it starts to drop off at after that. So I don't hate that pick. That's a good pick. I agree. One pick. Are you good with Dalvin? Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, I'm good.
Because this pick I hate super super badly, and and it's sad because it's my team. But who the hell put Juju Smith-Schuster on the damn draft board? Like, let's be serious here. For one pick that went right after him on the same team should have been earlier. Elijah Moore, that's a steal and a half right there. That's going to be a pick that people are like, "Holy crap! I can't believe I took Rashad Bateman over Elijah Moore." What was I thinking, morons?
Shot Bateman's done.
That blew my mind. Like, no way. But Juju Smith-Schuster, that's a complete joke. Look, I'm a diehard Patriots fan. I know our roster inside and out, and I promise you, there will be 3 to 4 receivers better on our roster than Juju Smith-Schuster this year. Kendrick Bourne, one of my sleepers that people are gonna should take, or at least maybe you look at it on the waiver wire, maybe taxi him if you're in a league that has a taxi squad. Demario Douglas, this kid is going to be a stud. He is a slot. He's going to be a slot machine. 5'8", 180, super quick, super elusive. Played with Malik Willis at Liberty. Me personally, I think he made Malik Willis like Mike Evans made Johnny Manziel, but that's neither here nor there. So Demario Douglas is a big one. Kendrick Bourne's good. Kayshon Boutte from LSU, I think he's got some potential there. So I mean, there's so many better options than Juju Smith-Schuster, who's just hoping to God to keep his job. He was relevant a little bit because he had Patrick Mahomes throwing to him, and even then he wasn't that relevant. And now all of a sudden, come on, you're not resurging this offense. You're not resurging your career.
I think probably hang on to that. He had that like 120 catch season or something, 110 catch season like a few years back, and I think that was like his second or third year. And I think people just hang on to that as what he's capable of. But as years go on, it's like that's the exception, not the rule. Like when it comes to this guy.
And he was capable of it because Antonio Brown took all the attention possible off of him. No,
you don't think Devontae Parker is going to command some of that?
Even Devontae Parker. Devontae Parker's one on the depth chart right now. I love Parker if he stays healthy. He's actually looking more explosive now than he ever has in his career. So I'm hoping he can stay healthy. He's got some get up to him too. So yeah, there's 4. Juju Smith-Schuster shouldn't even be on this team, in my opinion. He's going to be like the 4th or 5th receiver, personally. He's had in practice and even in preseason, but even in practice, he's dropping balls, which pisses me off beyond belief.
Shit! So I just looked at this team like Gabe. That's their 3rd wide receiver. They went Gabe Davis, Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Elijah. Yeah. This team's in some trouble.
You are very happy that you drafted all those running backs because you're going to need some trade bait. Absolutely.
Yeah, they need that. They're going to be talking with team 3 over here, or team 4. I'm sorry, they on some swaps.
Yeah, that's an ultimate 0 running back strat or 0 wide receiver strategy.
Golly, I would not. I don't recommend that.
No, they're definitely going to be drafting first next year for sure. So they can get Marvin Harrison next year if you really need to. Yeah. I like Demario Douglas coming out. And then 2 that weren't drafted at all as well, besides Demario. 3, actually. I mean, I know you like Rashad Penny, which we mentioned, but Damian Harris wasn't drafted. I'm telling you guys, if you have a chance to take Damian Harris, take him. If you can take him in the 9th or 10th round, I'm telling you, he will overtake James Cook. He will be the lead back in Buffalo. 100%.
I took Jeff's advice and I drafted him in my league that we'll get to later, simply because Mr. Patriot himself told me that. So
I watched him every day.
You can owe me a steak dinner.
Every game I watched, I know what he's capable of. I know he was hurt last year, which sucked, and Stevenson overtook him. It happens. I don't understand why we didn't bring him back. A tear came in my eye when we didn't bring him back because I know what he's capable of. And then to see him to go to Buffalo, the other ear gained another tear. So yeah, if you have a chance, take Damian Harris. And then tight end wise, I like Laporta. Just to wrap it up real quick, Laporta was a good one. Kincaid's a good one as well. But if you need a tight end at the waiver wire, or if you need to pick one up throughout the season, this kid's I think gonna blow up a little bit. Who's in Tennessee? Okonkwo. Not a lot of people are talking about super freak athletic. Like he's got a lot of freakish tendencies to him. If they can find a way to get him the ball, I think he's got a lot of potential to him. So if you can pick him up, and again, if you have one of my dynasty leagues, we have taxi squads through Sleeper. If you could taxi him and just put him in there and just be like, all right, we'll hold on to him for a little bit and see how he goes. Great, it's a great option to go with. So, but that's all my recap of the draft.
No, love it. Yeah. Other than that, like I'll just give some parting advice. Like if you're rolling up to a dynasty draft, and keep in mind this is starting from scratch. Like you gotta come with a strategy. What do you want to do? Do you want to go young potential heavy? You just trying to win this year and you'll figure the rest of it out later. Or you could be like Team 10 and stack up on running backs for some reason. Come with a strategy, because when it comes to Dynasty, it's so much more dynamic. There's a lot of moving parts. Like, you have to have a healthy mix of young up and coming and established and then veterans. But it's not, to me, Dynasty drafts aren't something you can just kind of wing. Like, you can wing a redraft league. You could just look at, hey, who's best available. Who did Matthew Berry say I should draft here. But Dynasty takes it to a new level. So come with that in mind. Again, some tips that I kind of throw out there is, like, if you're going to go one quarterback, like, take an old guy and wait for next year to draft Caleb Williams, or until one of these young quarterbacks pop or don't pop. I don't recommend Team 10 strategy, because you're going to find more running backs next year. But if they flipped running backs with young wide receivers, I'd be okay with that. If they went 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 straight young wide receivers instead of 5 straight young running backs, well, 3 young and 2 old, 6, I would have been okay with that. But just come with a strategy, do your thing, don't overthink it.
Yeah, the way I see it is, redraft leagues you can go to with a magazine. Dynasty leagues, you better do your homework, and you better have your own notebook ready to go. So I agree.
That wraps us up on Dynasty.
All right, so the next segment of our third episode, I was super excited about. Lock 'em or block 'em, baby. Let's go. We're going to tell you if you're going. This is more like the redraft, not really so much Dynasty. It's more like you're going into your league this week, redraft. Who should you go with? Who should you kind of stay away from? Who's in a good spot where he's landing at? Maybe you want to reach for him a little bit, and who's going a little bit too early and be like, let's block him away a little bit. Maybe we shouldn't be going for him that early. So I've been hearing a little bit of hype about this player. I don't know if anybody else has. It kind of threw me off when it came up on our random player list. But I got to ask you, David Brennan, because you're a Jets fan. I've been hearing a little bit about Tyler Conklin. What are you thinking about Tyler Conklin? Are you going to lock him or block him?
My guy, lock him up.
What?
You are locking Tyler Conklin up. Now, the good news is he's probably going to be around pretty late for you to lock him up. But I'm telling you, like, this is a dude that is poised for a breakout, right? So we talked earlier, in the podcast, you yourself mentioned that, hey, if Garrett Wilson can do it with Zach Wilson, then he can do it with any quarterback. Tyler Conklin was in the same position, and he went for 58, 552, and 3 touchdowns last year. Not numbers that are going to blow you off, blow off the stat sheet or whatever. But I know he was a great bye week fill-in for a lot of people. When it came down to the wire, especially late in the season. Like, and when it comes to tight end, like, it's such a thin position that this is a guy that is poised for a breakout. So keep in mind, like, he's on the younger side. He's only 27, which is a prime breakout year for a lot of receivers. And some of the pushback that I've heard or that I've gotten is that there's this myth that, oh, well, Aaron Rodgers doesn't like throwing to the tight ends. But who have his tight ends been? Richard Rodgers, Jermichael Finley. And now those 2 guys are terrible. Rodgers had them finish 11th and 12th in tight end fantasy points in a season. And sure, he's had Jared Cook. But Cook missed 6 games with Rodgers, the one season that they were together in 2016. And then they did get to play again together in the playoffs that year for 3 games. And he went for 18, 229, and 2 touchdowns. So Rodgers will throw to the tight end. Again, if you could make Richard Rodgers a top 12 fantasy tight end and Jermichael Finley a top 12 fantasy tight end, I'm going to believe that you throw to the tight end. And Conklin is a catch-first tight end. The Jets also, signed Uzama 2 years ago last year, from Cincinnati. And a lot of people thought, maybe he would take over that pass-catching role. That's not the case. Everything that I'm hearing is that he's in line to be the blocking tight end, which
Yeah.
opens up Conklin, to strictly be the pass catching tight end. And the reports out of Jets camp are that they believe Conklin's going to be the number 2 passing option on that offense.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I'm locking him in because you can get him late, and even if you want to take him early, just to lock him in, I'm telling you, do it. 58, 552, 3 touchdowns last year. Now he's got Rodgers, who again has bought guys out of nowhere to be top 12 fantasy tight ends. Lock him in. Tyler Conklin, top 10 tight end on the year.
Robert Tonyan. Robert Tonyan's another one.
Yeah.
Got him to come out of nowhere. Yeah, that's not a bad. You're right. The myth is he's bad with tight ends, but honestly, you're right. Once he gets a tight end that's valuable enough to do it, he could probably make something out of him. So, yeah, if you want to wait a tight end and get him later on, 10th, 11th round, and get some more stock up at wide receiver, running back, that's a great pick. Okay. All right. Well, another player in a couple of the drafts that I've been doing, I've been seeing him linger out there a little bit, like maybe not drafted, especially where his average draft stock is supposed to be. So it kind of threw me off a little bit. So I was kind of curious what you thought about this one. But Tyler Lockett with Seattle, I've been high on him for the past couple of years. I thought he did pretty well. What are you thinking about him this year?
Throw the X's up, baby.
Oh, no.
Throw the X's up. And it's funny. Yeah, I'm blocking him. I'm blocking him all day long. I'm Heismaning him, straight to the side. It's funny. Like I was reading an article today that was like, "Oh, you should take Tyler Lockett over DK Metcalf because Tyler Lockett's done this and Tyler Lockett's done that." And I'm like, yeah, I want to be drafting behind that person. Because here's the reality, right? Is Tyler Lockett? He's 31 years old. Again, wide receivers, they don't age typically well, unless you're Jerry Rice. Usually that 30, year mark, 31 is when you really start to see a decline. It's kind of like 28 with running backs, it's kind of when they start to fall off the cliff. But not only that is when you look at the Seattle offense, they have Kenneth Walker, stud running back. They have Zach Charbonnet that they drafted in the 2nd round, stud running back. Pete Carroll loves to run the ball. Rashad Penny, wasn't supposed to be the bell cow back. Then somebody else got hurt on that team, and Rashad Penny became the bell cow back, and then he got hurt. Like if given the opportunity, Pete Carroll will run the ball. That's why he drafted another running back to back in second rounds.
He's learned from his previous mistakes, right? Let's just remember
that. Yeah. Contrary to popular belief, he will run the ball. At the most opportune times. He's an old school coach. He prefers to run. They're the quintessential run sets up the pass offense. And most importantly, all that aside, like those are just setup facts. The number one hammer to drop on why you should avoid Tyler Lockett at all costs, Tyler Blockett, I guess we should say, is they drafted Jackson Smith and Jigba this is the 1st round. Like this kid is a stud, man. Like he was Ohio State's number 1 receiver, when he was healthy. And in case you need a reminder on some wide receivers that have come out of Ohio State in recent years, Garrett Wilson, Rookie of the Year, Chris Olave, 2nd or 3rd in Rookie of the Year voting, Michael Thomas, all-time catch record in the season, Terry McLaurin, like the list goes on and on and on. Like Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to get his, and he's not a deep, a deep play kind of guy. He operates more out of the slot like Tyler Lockett does. So Tyler Lockett, this is the year that I would comfortably say you can block him, and the anti-hype is real.
And all that Ohio State hype's coming from a guy with a Michigan shirt on. I just want to throw that.
It doesn't make me feel good, but we did.
It's got to be believable.
But we did beat them the last 2 years, so I can say it. Like we shut those receivers down.
No, but if you get praise for an Ohio State receiver from a Michigan guy, it's real because it's paining him to even say it. Okay.
It was rough.
Awesome. Yeah,
let me kick it back to you because there's some people that I think that I know you have a different take on that I think a lot of people might be curious to hear. And one of these guys is going in a lot of mock drafts. He's going in the first round. And he's a wide receiver that has a history of putting up some pretty historical numbers. So I'm going to ask you, lock or block Cooper Kupp?
We are going to block the hell out of that. We are going to block him into the sidelines, out of the stadium. Do not go with Cooper Kupp, especially where he's going in the first round. So first off, you just talked about it. Wide receivers, when they hit age 30, starts to drop off. So Cooper Kupp is a special player. Don't get me wrong. He put up a lot of great seasons. He was a great receiver. But first off, he had good players across from him. Robert Woods produced for him at one point. Odell was there with him for a little bit. Even had Robinson last year, who didn't produce as well as he could have, but he still had a good number 2 behind him. That offense does not have a great wide receiving core this season. They're not going to have a lot of pieces to throw to. Van Jefferson, I think, is going to end up being the number 2 spot, which is not good at all. And where he's going at number 1 is all off of what he's previously done. I don't know why people are doing that. I don't know what in their head thinks, okay, Cooper Kupp, automatically have to take him number 1. He's going to have 130 catches and 1,800 yards. No, this guy maybe puts up 1,000 yards, and that's a maybe. Because for one, right off the bat, the quarterback situation on top of it, Matthew Stafford, we don't know how that's going to go. He's been hit or miss on that team. He's been Mr. Pick Six since he's been there. So that's been a mess. The offensive line is in complete shambles. They're going to be in the bottom third of offensive lines. Cam Akers, I like a little bit, but he's going to steal the show a little bit. Yeah, Cooper Kupp, if you really want to bank on it, maybe 70 to 80 receptions, maybe 1,000 yards, which isn't terrible. I'm not trying to bash the guy, but that's not first-round talent. If you're going for a receiver in the first round, you want a guy who has the potential to put up 1,300 to 1,500 yards and have a massive season that's going to change the game for you. That's the only Jefferson, Chase, maybe. And I'm not even big on Tyreek Hill to go in the first round. I'd go with him in the second round too. But you don't go many receivers in the first round unless they're going to completely change the game for you. So yeah, Cooper Kupp, block that shit right off the field. Get him out of there. He's not going to be successful this season.
So man, so it's last pick of the first round, 10 or 12 team. Kupp still on the board. You're leaving him there?
Absolutely. I wouldn't even. I don't even know if I take him at the end of the second round. I think I would let him fall. Me personally, if I was going to take him, he'd have to fall to the third or fourth round. Have to.
Okay, that's
third or fourth round. Now, I'm telling you, what you're going to get out of him, it's going to be third or fourth round production, and it's not worth it. There's so many other options that are going to outproduce him this year. It's just a bad situation. Unless they ended up training him in the middle of the season somewhere, that's going to be a lot more productive. And even then, who knows? Because he's 30. I don't see him being worth the juice. Is not worth the squeeze on that one.
Yeah, I mean, wide receiver trade, NFL trades as a whole typically don't really seem to pan out mid-year unless it's on the defensive side. So, third or fourth round, I don't know. That might be a little bit too hard to pass up on. If he's there in the late second,
maybe late second. I meant early third. I could set if I have the second pick overall in a draft and I'm in the third round and Cooper Kupp's still there, I'd probably take him at that point.
Yep. I think that's fair because the thing that we got to remember when it comes to redraft leagues, it's not what you've done. It's what do I think you're going to do. And that's not to go back to a couple of weeks ago, but that's why we both would agreed on Jamar Chase over Justin Jefferson. Is just statistically the odds of him going 1,800 yards again, 1,900 yards is super low. So yeah, it's not.
And that's the same thing here. What are the odds of Cooper Kupp putting up a season that he did 2 years ago, then got injured, then became 30, and to be able to put up those same numbers? It's not going to happen. And I love Cooper Kupp. He was great for me in his 20s, but he's not going to be the same player he once was. He's going to be a good piece to a team that's not relevant. They're not, and who knows? He might even get injured again. Who knows? He's not exactly the toughest guy I've ever seen. He's not bad, but he's not. it's just not enough upside for me to skip over players like I said, like Tyreek Hill.
So
It's
the injuries with Cooper Cup are a concern for me too. It's back-to-back years that he's been dealing with injuries. So let me ask you this. So another guy that's going sometimes first round, some second round is Amon St. Brown. So what are you doing with him? You locking him or blocking him?
that's 100%. I'm locking up with the biggest safe I possibly have, and I'm I'm keeping him in there as much as possible. He is locked up beyond belief. Amon-Ra St. Brown, that's one I would take early second round. That's one I'd even consider in the end of the first round if I really had to. That's one I could justify. It goes. That's what I was thinking about. Chase, Jefferson, the third best wide receiver this season is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. The man's put up statistical numbers. Last season, he put up numbers
Third
that were
best?
third best receiver in the league this season when it comes to statistics. Jameson Williams already, the guy who's supposed to go across the field from him, already out the first 6 weeks, which is going to be terrible. That offense is going, man. Let's not forget last season when they were in sync, they were the best offense in football in the first 5 or 6 weeks. They were tearing it up. Jared Goff has read a playbook. So proud of him. Congratulations, Jared Goff. You know how to read defenses all of a sudden. So he's doing well. I love the Lions in general. Personally, I could really see them upsetting Kansas City on opening night, and that's just me. Sam Laporta is going to be a good piece. I think he's going to end up being better than Hawkinson. Not this year, but eventually he'll get to that point. The line's great. The running game's going to have a little resurgence with Jahmyr Gibbs. I think it's going to open up even more targets for St. Brown. He's going to get the bulk of the offense, and he's going to this kid's a physical freak. Injury-wise, I don't see him really having too many issues, knock on wood, obviously. But just the physicality that he has, he can take hits all the time, and he's not going to leave games. He's a solid player, and he's a special player. Watch out for him. This season, he's probably going to put up 1,500 yards. And that's what I have him doing this season. 1,500, maybe 110 receptions. And he's going to hit the end zone quite a bit too. Probably 8 or 9 touchdowns, I would say. He's going to put up numbers. So
yeah, he's a guy that just continues to get overlooked, and probably has to do with draft pedigree. He wasn't a first round wide receiver. Not a lot of people knew him coming out of college, even though he had a pretty good college career. And he just continues to produce, and also playing in Detroit, hasn't helped him much except this year. There's a lot of hype around him, and yeah, I thought Jameson Williams going there may have hurt him, but Jameson Williams missed his rookie year because of ACL. Now he's out there, betting on tic-tac-toe, so he's missing the first 6 games of this year, which I think that I don't know, that's kind of concerning to me from his career outlook standpoint. But anyway, on St. Brown, yeah, I like that. I'll lock that in. So first round.
His dad's Mr. Universe. I mean, you can't really go wrong with selecting the kid of Mr. Universe, right? That's just, the kid's a stud. Physical freak. I can't wait to see him out there.
So it's first round. You get the 8th pick in a 10-team league. Chase, Jefferson, they're off the board. Let's say someone like Barkley or Chubb is on the board. It's your first pick. What are you doing? You taking St. Brown?
I don't take him over Chubb or Barkley, but it's not because I don't believe in him. It's more or less I'm seeing St. Brown fall to late in the second round. So let's say if I have the 8th pick, I know he's falling back to me in that second round more than likely. So if I can get a player like Chubb and Barkley and St. Brown in the same squad, I'm stacked. This, I will talk about it later on what I just drafted, but I have him in my draft that I just did over the weekend. And I still got a stud in McCaffrey, as a matter of fact. So he's falling to late in the second round. Easy decision for me, not even a question. But if I have a late pick, I don't select him in that first round because I'm pretty confident he's coming back to me. So it's not that I don't think that he'll do better than Chubb or Barkley, which I think statistically this season, I think he'll put up numbers better than them. But it's the fact that the value I can get instead of if I get him in the first round, now in that second round, who am I getting at running back? Am I getting a Najee Harris or a Josh Jacobs? Not terrible, But if I can get Barkley or Chubb, I'll take that all day. So
I get it. You're scared. You're scared to back your pick. That's cool. And so you're locking them in, but you lock them in, but you're keeping the key. I got it. Okay.
It's smart drafting. If I know, like okay, Tyler Conklin, you going to take him in the 4th round because you think he's going to be a Travis Kelce-esque player? No, you're going to get him in the 10th round. Take him in the 10th. Take him in the 9th.
I took him 4th round.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, but that's but again, like we teased it earlier. We'll kind of get into our recent drafts, some do's and don'ts. This scenario applies multiple times for for me. So stay tuned for what we got coming and how to draft your upcoming drafts this weekend.
Okay. All right. So we'll go back. We got a couple more guys we'll go over. This guy I saw in preseason. I'm a little bit hyped about him. I was a little torn on him in the beginning, but I think I'm a little leaning toward drafting him now. But I'm curious to see what you think about because he's got a new quarterback now. He no longer has the GOAT. Now he's got the Baker. Chris Godwin in Tampa Bay. I'm not sure what to do with him. What do I do?
You lock him in and you throw away the key. And then you go back and you watch an episode from 2 weeks ago where you were bashing me on taking Chris Godwin. And who's going to throw to him? Who's going to throw to him? Why would you draft Chris Godwin? So I'm glad that a few preseason games you get to see finally what I tried to tell you a couple weeks back. So I'm glad you're coming around. So maybe in 2 weeks from now you'll see that Tyler Conklin was worth it. And that all of my other predictions come true. So,
okay.
But
it's nice to see their chemistry on the field a little bit to give me a little reassurance. But yeah, what's your backing on that? Why Chris Godwin?
Yeah, so lock him in, throw away the key. Like, I mean, this guy, he's a stud, right? Like, he's coming off back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. We talked a little bit about wide receiver age earlier. Dude's only 26. And, I know people are like, oh, well, who's got, now who's throwing to him? Well, Baker Mayfield's throwing to him. And Baker Mayfield is a very capable quarterback. And what does Baker Mayfield excel in? Like, he doesn't excel in the deep ball. He excels in the mid to short game. That's where Chris Godwin excels. Like, he's a slot receiver. Last year, 100-plus catches, 98 the year before. And, everyone's argument is like, oh, well, Brady was there. Okay, so what? Brady was there, and guess what? Mike Evans never had over 80 catches. Mike Evans barely cracked 1,000 yards 2 out of the 3 years. He had 1,006 and I think like 1,009. So it's not, and that's a guy that's hitting 1,000 yards 9 straight seasons. So it's not like Brady was just out here making everybody's career. Like, Chris Godwin's been doing this. The dude is a stud. He is a beast. And in the one full season that he had without Brady, 86 catches, 1,300 yards. So he did better without Brady. So now you got a guy who's clearly not as bright as Brady, who's not going to see the field like Brady, and who's not going to take as many chances as Brady. So I think everything plays into Chris Godwin's favor here. Baker Mayfield and him, as you mentioned, they're showing chemistry. This is a dude, I think he's going, I don't know, anywhere from 9th to 11th round, maybe eight and some. Like, if he's there, lock him in, snatch him up. He's a guy that if you're drafting number 1 overall, and like, let's say for some reason you take a Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, and then you just go running back, like, you can stack up on tight end, quarterback, whatever, and he's going to be a guy that's going to be there for you later in the draft to be your wide receiver 2 all year long.
Yeah. No, I do regret me bashing. I still bash Mike Evans a little bit. I'm not big on Evans this year, but I will say this.
I agree with that.
I had to do some thinking about it, and knowing what Tom Brady's capable of and watching him all those years, there's one thing that Tommy Brady does, it's spread the ball around. And he did that in Tampa too. So that's why Godwin's numbers fell a little bit, because he'll pass it all over the field. Baker's not going to do that. Like you said, Baker's going to key in on the guy he feels most comfortable with, which is going to be Godwin, not eventually. He's going to be Godwin. So yeah, that's not a bad pick at all. I don't disagree with you. I think if you can get him as your wide receiver 2, that's a solid start. I'll give you that all day. Good pick, man.
All right.
Well, this one This one, a lot of people are high on him, and I can't wrap my head around it. And I don't know, maybe you can explain to me why they're high on him. Maybe you can justify why I'm not high on him. But Bijan Robinson is going first round, possibly second round, super early. The guy's never touched an NFL field before. What is it about Bijan that everybody likes? Are you liking him or not liking him?
No, I'm blocking him. I am blocking him like the Kembe Mutombo in the fourth quarter. Like it is no. Like there is nothing to like here, and we've talked ad nauseum around Bijan Robinson, and I was very tempted. Like in this segment, I was like, man, I do not want to go back to the Bijan Robinson well. But then I pulled up Matthew Berry's recent rankings, that came out today, and he has Bijan Robinson as RB3. Like there is just no way. Like he has him ahead of Chubb, ahead of Barkley, ahead of Jacobs. Like don't be foolish. Like this is a guy that first, like I'm definitely not taking him as one of the top 3 running backs, and like I'm definitely not even taking. I'm the only way I'm taking him is his early third round. For all those reasons that that we talked about earlier and that you just mentioned is you have Algier in the backfield who went for 1,000 yards last year, and Pro Football Focus, like love him or hate him, whatever, they had him rated as the best running back. Plus, they have Cordell Patterson, who's still there, and this guy, Cordell Patterson was a wide receiver. So it's like, okay, so you got Algier who can rush, you got Patterson who can also rush and catch. I'm not gonna say like where does Bijan fit in, but what does Bijan do that these guys don't do? Like, sure, he might do them better, but does he do them that much better to where those guys aren't going to see the field? No. Like, I love Bijan Robinson, the player. I hate Bijan Robinson, the fit. So, again, if he was on a different team, sure, take him all day. Maybe he is, you couldn't argue, he'd be the RB3. If he went to New Orleans, sure, make him the RB3, even with Kamara there, because Kamara's going to miss time. If he goes to a situation where they don't really have a clear running back, Carolina, Miles Sanders, whatever. Again, so I'm not bashing Bijan Robinson, the player. I'm bashing Bijan Robinson, the fit. Because, again, let's not forget that Desmond Ridder is their quarterback. And let me ask you this. You're in a bunch of fantasy football leagues, and I'll ask this to the audience. How many of those fantasy football leagues have drafted Desmond Ridder?
None.
Because he's not good.
No.
So what does that mean? You're going to have a bunch of stacked boxes, and like everyone's falling in love with, well, they got Pitts and they got London. Yeah, but they also still have Desmond Ridder. And like, we don't know. Maybe Desmond Ridder's good. I don't know. But I anticipate a lot of stacked boxes for Bijan Robinson. I'm not a huge believer in Desmond Ridder. I mean, he did really well at Cincinnati, but it's Cincinnati. There's a reason he wasn't a top pick. And they finished bottom 10 in yards per game last year. Like that's not indicative of an offense that's just missing a running back in this day and age. Like, when have you ever heard somebody's like, oh, that team's just missing a running back? Like, it doesn't happen anymore. So Bijan Robinson, I'm blocking him. Again, if I'm drafting 1, 2, or 3 overall, first round goes by, I'm not taking him. Second round goes by, I'm not taking him. Maybe in the third round if he's still there. Maybe it's worth a flyer but I would only do it if I drafted another running back. Like, I just don't. I think you're gonna get a lot of inconsistencies out of Bijan Robinson.
Okay, yeah, I could be okay with him as my RB2. Like if he's my second running back on the roster, I could be okay with that. I could live with him in the third round, even late third round. I would go. I wouldn't go early third round. Like there's still some guys that would possibly still be there, but I agree with you 100%. I think that's a good way to block him out. Late third round is where he should be going. Right now, we're seeing him late first, early second, not worth the value.
RB3, according to Matthew Berry, blew my mind.
That's terrible. I'll eat my words if he's right, but I agree with you 100%. And I agree that it was a bad fit for Atlanta. I'm friends with a Falcons fan who was super excited. We got Bijan. That's great. It's like, dude, you could have went Jackson Smith and Jigba if you were Falcons. You could have went Jordan Addison, put another piece over on Drake London's side. Now you've got 2 receivers, Kyle Pitts, and still 2 running backs to help out Ridder and develop, be a better quarterback. No, it was a bad pick for a bad team. They failed miserably on that one, but
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
Let's see. Well, let's keep it running back. So another guy that's getting a lot of hype, which is weird for a running back coming off an injury. You don't really see that a lot. But a dude that's getting a lot of hype. They got a new head coach. People feel he's the new head coach is gonna really shift the offense and make it click. Javonte Williams. What are you doing with him?
I'm blocking it, unfortunately, which is so sad because like I want to lock him up as much as I really do because he's averaging around like the 5th round. And he had a promising, like, he's a good back. Don't get me wrong. I like him as a back. But in order for me to draft him any higher than the 5th round, we're going to have to trade him right now because the system in Denver is not going to work for him. So we did, doing coming off of that injury, I think he'll be okay from it. I don't think it's going to linger too much into the season. They did get Samaje Perine to kind of take off his load a little bit in case he can't start week 1 because they're still like working on and getting him back, or they're going to decrease his workload a bit, which kind of concerns me a little bit. But on top of that, Russell Wilson, to me, I'm not a huge fan of still. I still think he was a product of the system in Seattle, hence Geno Smith being successful. I hated Hackett as a head coach, but I don't think it was all him. I think Russ Wilson really showed his true colors. But on top of that, Sean Payton is not a good coach to draft running backs for. I'm just not a big fan of it. Since he was in the league since 2006 to 2021, he's had a running back go over 1,000 yards twice.
Damn,
That's it.
That's crazy.
Only 2 times in 15 seasons did he have a running back go over twice. So, no, don't get me wrong. Williams can catch out of the backfield. I like it. But he's not a big running back catching out of the backfield player either. Like, Kamara had a little.
Do you think, like, do you anticipate like a timeshare with him and they signed Perine, or do you think that it's just the way Sean Payton just calls more passes than runs?
No, I think Javonte will be the main back, but yeah, Perine's going to get some work, especially after how he did last year with Cincinnati and how he showed he could take over some of the load. I think they are going to use him, so that's already going to take some of the statistical numbers away from him. But just hearing all the running backs that Sean Payton had over the years, like Pierre Thomas and Deuce McAllister, Alvin Kamara, he had good backs throughout the system, and just have the 2 years of 1,000-yard rusher. Just not okay with me. I don't see them using him wisely. I still think they're going to have to work him in. I think eventually Javonte Williams is going to leave Denver just because he's not going to be a good fit for that system. So if you have the chance to take Javonte Williams later than the 5th round, like the 7th or 8th round, and can take a flyer on him, sure, maybe he's worth the risk at that point. But where I'm seeing him is around the 5th round. He's not worth running back 2 scenario, which is what you're usually getting around the 5th round. So leave him off the board for a little bit. Hopefully he falls, but don't take a flyer on Javonte Williams.
Okay, I like it. So another guy that a lot of people are taking flyers on, because he seems to be slipping some. But then again, in another draft, I've seen him go, relatively high, and like I just don't know what to make of their offense. I'm not a huge fan of the quarterback. DJ Moore, lock or block?
We're going to lock in DJ Moore. We're going to lock him up. I think he's going to be the safety valve of what Justin Fields needs. So typically when you see a quarterback struggling or a younger quarterback who needs a safety valve, they'll typically go to their tight end. Cole Kmet has proven time and time again he's not the answer. Even though he just signed a big contract this offseason, he's not the answer. So Fields has to find someone he's comfortable with. Obviously, it's not Chase Claypool. Okay, this isn't the Canadian Football League. He needs to go back there. He was terrible. But DJ Moore is going to be that piece where he finds comfort because he's a veteran. He knows the ins and outs of the league. He can kind of help Fields grow a little bit. I think he's going to be more of a safety valve, which is going to rack up a lot of catches. I think DJ Moore is going to hit that 100-catch mark this season. And where he's going, which is right around like the 6th round, 5th or 6th round is what I'm seeing, that's great value. 100-catch, over 1,000-yard receiver in the 6th round, sign me up. I'm good. Like he's got a lot of upside to him because the running game's not that great. Khalil Herbert and the rookie they just drafted. Fields' his running ability isn't terrible, but like he's gonna have to if they want to win games, which they're really primed to do. They're gonna need to start passing the ball, and they're gonna have to find somebody. And DJ Moore's consistently getting open. He's had some great season with some crappy quarterbacks in Carolina. So honestly, this kid knows how to get open even for the worst quarterbacks. So yeah, I definitely lock up DJ Moore. He's great value if you can get him in that fifth round, round before he's going. Even late fifth round, I think that's a solid pickup, and I think he won't let you down this season.
No, I agree. I think he's a huge value. I'm not sure about the 100 catches, but I think 1,400 yards is in play.
Okay.
Yeah, 13, 1,400. Like I think what you're going to see out of Chicago is a lot of yak. Yards after catch. And why I say that is just like looking at their preseason games, like they've been trying to incorporate more of the quick screens. And Eberflus, he's a defensive coordinator, that turned into a head coach. Defensive coordinators typically love to run the ball. Generally not with their quarterback, but I don't see Chicago being a power running offense. But I can see them utilizing DJ Moore, in a lot of those quick screens and kind of letting him go do his thing, like San Fran does with Debo. That's not to say he's going to get as many jet sweeps as Debo, but I just see a lot of like over the middle, short screen. Let DJ Moore take it to the house.
You know what's crazy? This is what he's not as small as he was, but he kind of resembles to me a modern day Steve Smith. That's what he's eventually going to be. Like he gets those tough yards. He can run through some players a little bit here and there, but he gets the short stuff. He's not a deep threat too much. He's not going to catch the deep ball that much, but yeah, he can definitely get those screens and make something out of it for sure. So yeah, I'm high on him for sure.
Cool.
All right.
Doom, so as promised, here we go. Like this is our final segment of the day. Biggie and I both coming off of some recent fantasy drafts, so we're going to hit you with the worst thing that we did during our most recent fantasy draft, the best thing that we did, and then some last minute advice so that you can head into the weekend with all the knowledge that you need to crush your draft. So Biggie, kick it over to you. Worst thing you did in your most recent fantasy draft.
Give my opponents insight on what I was going to draft. No, the one thing I kind of regret a little bit is I waited too long on a tight end. I ended up with Pat Freiermuth in the 8th round, which isn't terrible. I like him as a player, but to me, if you're going to get a tight end, you should probably get a top 5 tight end if you're going to be happy with your season. He's not one of them. Waller was one I was aiming for. He went right before my pick, so. If you have a chance to get a tight end, the top 5 tight end in that 6th or 7th range, that's probably something I would go with. That was my biggest mistake. What about you? What are you thinking? What was your biggest mistake this weekend?
Man, my biggest mistake. So I know I talked earlier about strategy and have a strategy going into the draft, but sometimes you got to adjust your strategy. So I found that ahead of time that I was going to be the 9th pick in the draft, and I said, okay, cool. I'm going to go wide receiver heavy. It's keeper league, so I had one keeper, running back, Kenneth Walker, and I was like, man, I'm going to go super wide receiver heavy, and man, that backfired on me. So I had the 9th pick of the draft. Nick Chubb was still on the board. I took Stephon Diggs.
Oh,
it gets worse. It comes back to me. Because 10th pick, I forget who they took Bijan Robinson, and then they took another receiver. So Nick Chubb on the board again.
No.
Yeah, and I took AJ Brown. Now, in my defense, it's a keeper league. A lot of wide receivers were kept, so I was looking at it like, okay, wide receivers going to be thin. Let me go ahead and stack up on wide receivers so that maybe I have some trade bait later on. Plus they're going to be thin. 10 teams, 7 of them kept wide receivers. So I was like, all right, let me stack up on the wide receivers. But that was my biggest mistake, was going in with the strategy. I could have left there with Diggs or AJ Brown and Nick Chubb and built my roster out from there. That was my biggest mistake. So best thing. What's the best thing you did? We'll move right past that.
Let's move past that real quick. So my best thing, honestly, I was happy with my 2 tight end or my 2 wide receiver, 2 running back combo. I had the 4th pick in my draft. And crazy enough, people, you're always going to find a few of these people in your draft that are just stuck on one specific person that they love. In this particular draft, one person's in love with Kelsey, one person's in love with Mahomes. So I got the fourth pick. I end up with Christian McCaffrey. So all for that. But I have St. Brown and DJ Moore, just like I wanted, just like I said. And I have Stevenson and McCaffrey, which is a great duo. So I was really happy to kind of mix and match those two and then still get Justin Herbert in the fourth round. That was my biggest success, was getting Herbert in the fourth round, who I think is going to be, again, number one talent, who's going to put up massive numbers. So to get him to fall to me in the fourth round, because I was going off of what you said, maybe settling for Trevor Lawrence if Herbert's not there. But no, I got him in the fourth round and still able to stack those positions around him. So that was my favorite thing this weekend. Off of what I just went through, what was the best thing you went over this weekend?
All right, so the best thing that I went over this weekend, comes off the heels of that, and again, drafting in the ninth position, you got to think ahead, and you have to be okay with reaching. So the best thing that I did was I started the runs, and I don't mean that I had some Mexican food or Indian food the night before, is I started a lot of the runs. I took Justin Herbert in the third round, because contrary to our argument, like I do believe that he can be wide receiver or QB1. So Mahomes went first round, and I think Allen too, but those are expected. So you never know when that next run is going to come. So I had to take him in the third round, and then right after I took him, another quarterback went. And then on the looper round, so at this point, Kelsey's gone and Andrews is gone. So I took who I thought was going to be the third best tight end, and I think you're also high on him too. Is I took Darren Waller, and then right after that, the run on QBs and the run on tight end starts. So if you're drafting on the back end of your draft, you have to look ahead. You cannot go off of best available. If you have sometimes the best available is not the best available at their position. And if you have an opportunity to get the best available at their best position, who may not be the best available, and you're in the back end of the draft, take him, because you got to wait 20 picks till it comes back around to you, and that person's not going to be there, and you're going to be in a worse spot. So that's the best thing that I did, was start the runs.
That's excellent advice. Starting the runs is phenomenal. I love that advice. So great. Okay.
Cool. And then let's wrap it up. 60 seconds fantasy advice for people jumping in the drafts this weekend. Go.
So like I just said, two of the biggest things I'm huge on is making sure you get your quarterback, making sure you get your tight end that you're comfortable with, because those are positions that you don't see a lot of people emerge from where they're going to be successful. Usually you know what you're getting with those. Like, you don't see a lot of tight ends emerging big time. You don't see a lot of newer quarterbacks. Like Geno Smith was an anomaly, but other than that, you know what you're getting in quarterback. Wide receivers and running backs, especially wide receivers, you can find wide receivers down the line somewhere. You're going to find somewhere you can hit. Like me personally, two sleepers that I haven't really mentioned too much for are Nico Collins, who I think he's going to be a big-time receiver this year, and Jahan Dotson, two receivers that you can easily get or aren't even being drafted, that have the potential to be 1,000-yard receivers, and you can get them free and clear later on and just like land them. So if you pick those two later on in the draft and land one of them, it was a success. So make sure you get your quarterback, make sure you get your tight end, because those are two positions you want to be able to beat people with on a weekly basis.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
What's your fantasy advice that you got for the fans?
Yeah, so my last minute fantasy advice is, if you have somebody on your board, take them. Don't worry about being the smartest person in the room. Don't worry about, winning the draft in terms of, oh, you got this person there. Wow, what a great move. Like, does that stuff matter? Sure. But what feels a lot worse is when you let a guy slide because you think he's going to come back to you and somebody else takes them. And that is a much worse feeling than being like, oh, I got this person in the 12th or 13th round. Nobody's going to give a shit, that you got him in the 12th or 13th round, and nobody's going to crown you a genius. Maybe if you're going to keep elite. But if you lose the guy that you wanted because you thought you can get him later, that's the worst feeling in the world. You never know what the rest of your draft room is thinking. Like, fantasy football is huge now. Everybody's got a magazine. Half the drafts tell you who the next best player available is. So if you have a guy in mind, just take him. even if it's 2-3 rounds earlier than what the consensus is. If he's your guy, your roster's filled out, take him.
Yeah. Yeah, don't. I completely agree. The way I look at it, same thing. Don't win draft day, win the championship. That's how you got to look at it. Who gives a crap? You don't want to be that guy, like you said, when it comes back around, you let him slide and he gets drafted. You don't want to be the guy dropping the F-bomb when it gets selected. You want to be the guy that hears other people dropping F-bombs when he's taken. So completely agree. Yeah, win the championship, not draft day. Awesome.
Cool.
Love it, Dave.
Hey, dropping knowledge, baby. Manalytics, episode 3 in the books.
I love when you're able to compete with me intellectually in fantasy football. It's good. Because usually I don't have to worry about being the smartest guy in the room. I'm usually it. So,
okay. Michigan taught me well.
But yeah, thank you guys for everybody. Like, subscribe, share, please. We really appreciate the support. Hopefully, we can. We're going to keep going this. Hopefully. Our strategy is to go over some more drafts next week, and see what's going on, and maybe get some starts and sits going. Wednesdays, possibly into Thursdays is when we'll be dropping videos, and then Sunday mornings, we're going to be working on setting up something to where we'll be live on Sunday mornings to kind of answer any questions you guys have. So we'll be looking forward to that. But yeah, we're excited. We got a lot of knowledge to drop. So anything you guys have or any comments you want to leave below on what you want answered, please drop them our way.
Absolutely. Manalytics, baby. Manalytics Live coming soon.
All right. Deuces.